Uh-oh, someone found all the raw food ingredients. So the first thing you're going to want to do when making raw food for your cat is put he or she in a secure place where they won't be going bonkers the whole time bugging you. I put my cat in the laundry room with her litter box. This is the recipe that we're going to be following today, and it is basically an 80-10-10 recipe, and it should be fully balanced. It has two secreting organs, it has plenty of heart meat for taurine, and it has some added egg yolks, and I add fish oil in at the end. Next, here's all of the items laid out for food prep, and that is a food processor I got for like $13, and it has been grinding up bones. It even ground up turkey wings that I had to use once because I was short on bone. And these chicken gizzards, if you read the fine print, it says they may contain hearts. And most of these packages at the store I'm finding say may contain hearts, or they're chicken gizzards and hearts. So you got to kind of pick through them because some have more heart in it than others. And if you can pick out the hearts, you should just combine it with the heart portion of your muscle meat and separate the gizzards. If you look closely at my ingredients, you might have noticed that I'm using beef heart and beef kidney, and that's because I just could not find any heart that was available. I mean, nobody around me that I have found sells like chicken hearts only or secreting organs. They're kind of hard to find. Um, but I was able to find a beef kidney really cheap. It was only like $1.88 or something, like $2. And the beef heart was kind of expensive. I mean, it was 2 pounds, and they range between like $10 and $14. So it depends on how big the heart is, but that added a pretty substantial amount of cost onto this, and I was hoping to find something a lot cheaper because I mean, like the gizzards and hearts in the package are only like also $2. So I was hoping that I could find hearts that would only be like $2 or $3, and then this whole 10-pound recipe would be like under $20. But because the beef heart was like $10, now we're up around $25 to $30, and this is making like over 10 pounds of food, just over 10 pounds of food. But it's really important to get heart meat because I think that has a lot of taurine in it, and I wanted to make sure that it's all balanced and it has everything she needs because I don't really add supplements. I mean, I think most of what they need is in this. Now, I do add a fish oil, but I wait until I thaw the food and I'm gonna feed it in smaller portions to add the fish oil because everything that I've read said that these oils and vitamins, I mean, they degrade if you freeze them and mix them up with a bunch of stuff and everything. So when I thaw it out and right before I give it to her, I just break open a gel cap of this fish oil and squeeze it in the Tupperware containers so it stays fresh and doesn't degrade. And the fish oil has a few extra vitamins. It has vitamin A and D and a lot of omega-3 fatty acids. And that helps to balance the meal and add a little bit more nutrition for the animals. Back to what I was saying before about cost. I mean, the goal here is to kind of get the best quality food you can. And I mean, I'm trying to save money on it, obviously, because this stuff can get expensive if you want it to. But if I could find the cheap hearts, it would be very cheap. And I mean, the chicken is a little bit expensive right now. Everything is getting expensive with inflation, but the chicken costs, 10 or $15, and then because that beef heart is also $10 to $13 or so, that kind of puts the price up. But everything else is affordable. I mean, you're talking 4 eggs and $2 or $3 worth of gizzards, and the chicken necks I was able to find at a butcher that basically throws them away. So I'm getting those at a really good deal. I actually got these for free, but they're gonna start charging, I think, because they know that there's a market for it. So I can't count on that, but I got like 8 pounds of necks, so I'll be good on chicken necks for like 8 months or longer. I'm not going to get into the exact cost and everything. I mean, you can figure that stuff out. I'm just basically showing the recipe. And here I am with my $13 sale food processor that I got from Walmart. And I'm putting chicken necks in it. I mean, I cut them into kind of whatever 1 inch or 2 inch little sections and then throw them in this food processor and just whip it up until I feel like everything is small enough that she could swallow and not choke on it. And I mean, that gives her the bone portion of what she needs. Of course, my cat is a female, so I say she. Some of y'all watching may have a male cat, and that's fine too. I grind it up as good as I can and get all the visible big chunks out of it. And then I put it into a bowl and I kind of just feel around in it a little bit to make sure that there's no like really sharp pieces or large chunks that she could choke on. And I just kind of feel like that's the safest thing right now because, I mean, I don't have a meat grinder. They're a little bit expensive. I mean, and I'm afraid to go out on a limb and try to spend like $30 or $40 to get a cheap one because then it may not work correctly. So I haven't got a meat grinder, and I just kind of figure, you know, for $13, this little food processor is getting the job done, and if it tears it up or whatever, it can just be my cat food processor. I mean, I still made breadcrumbs in it or whatever the other day, and it works. But it's cheap and it's getting the job done, so I haven't invested in anything more expensive. You know, I'm not going to get a $900 meat grinder when, I mean, you can see the results here. It's doing perfectly fine. And so we're just finishing up grinding up the chicken necks now, and I showed the end of that because some people might find it interesting seeing the little grinder work. And here's the finished product. It's just about a pound, a little over, and you can see it's basically completely edible. There's no large chunks of bone or sharp pieces or anything. I mean, it's all in there, and that'll give her her bone and calcium, the 10% requirement of that. But we're going to move on now and talk about the gizzards. In the package, there's gizzards and hearts, and here's what a gizzard is on the left, and then you can see the heart on the right. But it's really important with the gizzards to trim them or cut them up into bite-sized pieces because see how tough that gristly silver skin stuff is that connects them. I mean, that's really tough. And when I first brought my cat home and started feeding her, I mean, I was actually buying a company's prepackaged raw meals, but the gizzards weren't chopped up small enough, and she almost choked. I mean, she was choking and she was pawing at her face. And I'll cut to a clip of that right here. You can see it in another video. So here you can see she's eating. This isn't when she choked, but you can tell that she's struggling with this gizzard, and she'll just sit there and gnaw on it and try to swallow it until she chokes. And here's another example of a really large gizzard that comes from the human grade food store, and it's just really tough. They can't bite through that, and they will choke on it, so make sure you cut it up, and scissors seem to work for this really well for me, and you know, just in the bite-sized pieces. And she likes the chunks, but to a point, you know, you don't want them to get too large where they'll choke on them. So at this point, all the hard work is done, all the cutting and chopping and dicing, and you basically just need to mix it up thoroughly so everything's uniform and even, and there is a equal portion of all the right meats in every container. This is what it looks like when the food is done and mixed and it's ready to be stored and frozen. So I ended up with just short of 12 pounds, but the bowl is heavy. It's probably at least a pound, and I didn't separate the weight of the bowl out. But anyways, I just did that to give you an idea of the weight. I mean, you can probably subtract about a pound or so for the bowl. And these are the containers I use. They are actually just lunch meat containers. I think they're Hillshire Farm lunch meat containers. And that's the bonus. When you buy like a $4 thing of ham or turkey or whatever, then you get these little Tupperware things and you can store your cat food in them. So I portion them out into these and just fill them as full as they'll get and then freeze them in a deep freezer. And my freezer gets like well below zero, so it's good for helping to kill any bacteria or parasites or anything. It gets like minus 20 or something. I was actually really surprised. I used a laser thermometer and it was really cold. These containers freeze really well. I ended up with like 10 and a half of them, and that's like 5 or 6 days, about a week's worth of food in each one, so it's a good portion to just kind of thaw and feed before it goes bad. And here we are finishing up with the taste tester. She approves. And I appreciate you guys watching, and hopefully you learned something. I will post some links in the description of some of the items that I use, like the scale and the knife and the fish oil, or at least a good fish oil to use. But the rest of the video is just showing some cleanup, which is also part of raw feeding. You want to make sure you clean your counters real good and everything. And I spilled a little bit of chicken on the floor, so I just kind of went over that with a mop. But again, have a great day. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time.